students of 11th standard. Very pleasant morning. Once again, welcome back to the zoology class. We are discussing chapter number 1, the living world. Today you are going to learn history of classification. At the end of the video, you come to know that when classification started and how it gradually improved as today's modern classification. Now let us see the early classification. Early classification of organisms were based on only two criteria, that is beneficial or harmful animals. Here you can see beneficial animals and harmful animals. So early classification classified the animals into beneficial animals and harmful animals only into two categories. Next, an ancient classification system recognized five animal groups. They are domestic animals, wild animals, creeping animals, flying animals, and sea animals. You got it? Early classification classified the animals into two groups. Then one more classification, that is called ancient classification, classified all the animals into five groups. In both the classification, only the two characteristics, that is habitat and morphology alone, followed. You got it? The fundamental characteristics used in these two classification were habitat and morphology. Then a scientist called Aristotle, he was the first to classify all animals in his book called History of Animals. In Latin, it is called as Historia Animalium. He attempted a basic classification of all living organisms into plants and animals. So Aristotle classified all the living things into two categories. They are plants and animals. Then animals were classified based on locomotion. Okay, based on locomotion, he classified animals into three categories. They are walking animals, they are called terrestrial animals. Flying animals, they are called as aerial animals. And swimming animals, they are called as aquatic animals. Then he classified all the animals into two groups based on the presence of red blood. The animals which have red blood are called enema, and the animals without red blood are called anema. You got it? So Aristotle followed three classification. First one, plants and animals. Second, based on locomotion, three groups of animals. Then based on red blood, two groups of animals, that is enema and anema. But Aristotle's classification system had limitations and many organisms were not fitting into his classification. Limitations means some drawbacks. He couldn't place some animals in the classification or in proper position. For example, the tadpoles of frogs are born in water and have gills, but when they metamorphose into adult frogs, they have gills and can live both in water and on land. So, Aristotle couldn't classify frogs and tadpoles, and he didn't know where to place them. Aristotle classified organisms based on locomotion, hence, birds, bats, and flying insects were grouped together just by observing one single characteristic feature, that is, the flying ability. On the contrary to the above said example, the ostrich, emu, and penguin are all birds but cannot fly. So, Aristotle would not have classified them as birds. In spite of all these limitations, Aristotle's classification system was followed for more than 2000 years, up to 1700. After Aristotle, his student Theophrastus continued his research on the classification of plants, and he was known as the father of botany. There was a huge gap till 16th century. Then the English naturalist John Ray wrote several important works through his life. His most important contribution was the establishment of species as the ultimate unit of taxonomy. In 1682, he published a book called Methodus Plantarum Nova. The book name is called Methodus Plantarum Nova, which contained about 18,000 species of plants, a result of a relatively narrow species concept. His complicated classification was based on many combined characteristics as opposed to earlier taxonomies. John Ray also aimed at publishing a complete system of nature which included works on mammals, reptiles, birds, fishes, and insects. The Swedish biologist Carolus Linnaeus, father of modern taxonomy and founder of modern systematics, developed a scientific system of taxonomy and binomial nomenclature which is still in use. Dear students, till now we discussed history of classification. I hope you have understood well. Thank you. See you in the next class.